The Galactic Consortium vessel, Starlight Voyager, trembled as it passed through the strange cloud of space dust. Captain Kim gripped his command chair while red warning lights flashed across the bridge. The ship gave another violent shake, throwing several crew members to the floor. "Status report. Status," Captain Kim called out, his voice steady despite the chaos. Officer Lee looked up from her screen, her face pale. "Main power failing, Captain. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Engine core showing critical damage." The Starlight Voyager was one of the finest ships in the consortium fleet. Its sleek design and advanced technology made it the pride of their people. But now, it drifted helplessly in an uncharted region of space, far from any known trade routes. "Can we make repairs?" Captain Kim asked his chief engineer. Engineer Han shook his head slowly. "The damage is too severe, Captain. We lack both the materials and technical solutions. Even if we had the parts, some of these systems are beyond our ability to fix with current methods." The ship's computer spoke in its flat, emotionless voice. "Analysis complete. Probability of successful repair, 0%. Estimated life support duration, 14 days. A heavy silence fell over the air bridge. The consortium prided itself on its advanced technology and scientific knowledge. Their species had traveled the stars for over 1,000 years. Yet here they were, defeated by a simple spatial anomaly that their sensors had failed to properly identify. "Send a distress signal on all frequencies," Captain Kim ordered, "and begin power conservation measures immediately." Days passed slowly. The crew rationed food and water. They shut down all non-essential systems to preserve power for life support. The temperature dropped as heating was reduced to minimum levels. Crew members huddled together in the central sections of the ship, wrapped in emergency blankets. Engineer Han and his team tried everything they could think of to repair the damaged systems. They worked tirelessly, drawing up plans and attempting repairs that grew increasingly desperate. Nothing worked. The damage was simply beyond their capability to fix. "We should have listened to the warnings about this sector," Officer Lee said quietly as she sat with Captain Kim in what remained of the ship's mess hall. "The mining outpost at Epsilon 9 reported strange energy readings in this region." Captain Kim nodded. "Humans have been mining in this sector for decades. We thought our technology was superior to theirs. We believed our sensors could handle any anomaly they had detected. On the 10th day, when hope was fading fast, Officer Lee detected a signal. A small ship was approaching their position. "It's a human vessel," she reported with surprise. "They've responded to our distress call." Some crew members scoffed. Humans were newcomers to space travel, having achieved faster-than-light technology only 3 centuries ago. What could they possibly do that the consortium's finest engineers could not? The human ship docked with their vessel hours later. The airlock cycled and a single figure stepped through. She was shorter than most of the consortium crew, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style. She wore a simple jumpsuit with many pockets filled with tools, some of which the consortium crew didn't recognize. "I'm Song from Epsilon 9, she said simply, looking around at the damaged corridor. "Got your distress call? Sounds like you're in trouble." Captain Kim stepped forward. "I am Captain Kim of the Galactic Consortium vessel, Starlight Voyager. Our ship has suffered catastrophic damage beyond our ability to repair." Song nodded, seemingly unfazed by the formal introduction or the dire situation. "Let me take a look at your systems. Humans have been dealing with strange energy patterns in this sector for years. We've developed some workarounds." Engineer Han couldn't hide his skepticism. "Our technology is far more advanced than human engineering. If we cannot fix it," Song just smiled. "Sometimes the problem isn't about how advanced your technology is. It's about understanding the specific challenges of the environment." She patted her toolkit. "And sometimes fixing things requires a different perspective. Now show me your engine room. Let's see what we're working with." Captain Kim nodded to Engineer Han, who reluctantly led Song toward the damaged sections of the ship. The rest of the crew exchanged doubtful glances. Their lives now depended on the skills of a human engineer from a mining outpost. It seemed Impossible that she could succeed where they had failed. But as Captain Kim watched her go, he noticed something in her confident walk and practical approach that gave him the first flicker of hope he'd felt in days. Perhaps different wasn't inferior. Perhaps they had something to learn from this human after all. The damaged engine room of the Starlight Voyager looked like a war zone. Sparks flew from broken panels, and the air smelled of burnt metal and plastic. Engineer Han led Song through the wreckage, pointing out the main systems that had failed. Core stabilizer completely destroyed. Primary power grid shorted out. Navigation computer offline, Han listed, his voice flat with defeat. We've tried everything in the standard repair protocols. Song nodded but said nothing. She walked slowly around the room, studying each damaged system with careful eyes. She knocked on panels, listened to the sounds they made, and checked readings on a small handheld device she carried. The consortium crew watched her with mixed feelings. Some hoped this human might somehow save them. Others thought it was a waste of their limited time and oxygen. Officer Lee whispered to Captain Kim, "Do you really think she can help? Humans are centuries behind us in space technology." Captain Kim watched Song work. "At this point, we have nothing to lose." Song finally spoke after 20 minutes of examination. "Your ship hit a quantum energy pocket. We call them ghost clouds at the mining station. They scramble advanced tech in ways that look like physical damage but are actually more like a system-wide software virus." Engineer Han crossed his arms. "That's impossible. Our diagnostics would have detected such a phenomenon." Song didn't argue. She just shrugged and continued, "I'll need access to your basic supplies, whatever tools you have left, and permission to take apart non-essential systems for parts." Captain Kim stepped forward. "You have my authorization. Do whatever you need to do." The next few hours were surprising for the consortium crew. Song worked in ways they had never seen before. She ignored their advanced repair interfaces and instead opened panels manually. She tested circuits with simple tools rather than diagnostic computers. Sometimes she would just close her eyes and listen to the hum of machinery. "What are you doing now?" asked Han, watching her disconnect pieces from the ship's entertainment system. "Your holographic projectors have components I can use to rebuild the navigation sensor array," Song explained, carefully removing a small crystal element. "The energy signature is similar enough." Han shook his head. "That cannot possibly work. The calibration tolerances are completely different." Song just smiled and continued working. "Sometimes you have to improvise." By the end of the first day, Song had created a strange-looking device from parts taken from various ship systems. It was ugly. Wires exposed, components clearly not designed to work together. But when she connected it to the ship's main computer, several dead screens suddenly came to life. "What is that?" Captain Kim asked, leaning forward with interest. "Diagnostic bypass," Song explained. "It lets us see what systems are truly damaged and what systems just think they're damaged because of the energy pocket effect." The screen showed a complex diagram of the ship's systems. Almost half of them were highlighted in red. "Good news," Song said, pointing to different sections. "About 60% of your physical damage is actually just system confusion. Your ship is treating phantom errors as real ones." Officer Lee looked confused. "But we can see the damage. The broken panels, the burnt circuits." Song nodded. "Some damage is real, yes, but much of it is your ship's automatic systems trying to fix what they think is broken and making things worse, like an autoimmune response in a body." The crew began to gather around, watching with growing interest as Song explained her plan. "First, we need to reset certain core systems to ignore the false errors. Then we can focus on repairing the actual physical damage." She looked at Engineer Han. "I'll need your help for that part. You know this ship better than I do." Han hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I will assist you." Song worked through the night, stopping only for short breaks to drink water and eat a protein bar from her pocket. The consortium crew took shifts helping her. By morning, several key systems were showing green lights for the first time since the accident. Captain Kim visited the engine room and found Song lying on her back under a console, hands deep in wiring. "How is it progressing?" he asked. Song slid out, her face streaked with grease but wearing a small smile. Life support is stabilized. We should have main power back online by tomorrow. After that, propulsion systems. Captain Kim felt hope growing. You're doing the impossible. Song shook her head. Not impossible, just different. She wiped her hands on her already dirty jumpsuit. Humans had to learn to fix things with limited resources. When you've been the most advanced species for 1,000 years, you sometimes forget how to improvise. For the first time in days, Captain Kim smiled. Perhaps this human engineer was exactly what they needed. Remember to write this as a part of the story in 800 words. Use simple, basic English and write in third-person style. Make it interesting and don't include any headings. The focus is on Part 3, Unconventional Methods. The third day aboard the Starlight Voyager brought new challenges. Song stood in the central power chamber staring at the damaged core. Engineer Han and 2 other consortium technicians waited nearby, their arms folded across their chests. The power stabilizer is completely destroyed, Han explained. We need to replace it, but we have no spare parts. Song walked around the glowing power core, her eyes narrowed in thought. What does this stabilizer do exactly? It regulates energy flow and prevents power surges, Han said. Without it, the core will overload within hours of full activation. Song nodded and opened her toolkit. She pulled out several simple tools and a collection of small parts she had gathered from around the ship. The consortium engineers exchanged skeptical glances. What are you planning to do? Asked one of the technicians. Build a new stabilizer, Song replied simply. Han shook his head. Impossible. A power stabilizer requires precision-crafted quantum, materials and specialized manufacturing techniques. Song didn't argue. Instead, she sat cross-legged on the floor and began to work. She took parts from the ship's food preparation units, communication devices, and even the waste management system. Her hands moved quickly, connecting wires, adjusting components, and testing connections with her simple tools. The consortium crew gathered to watch. Many whispered among themselves, doubting the human's methods. Some laughed quietly when she used a cooking pot as the outer casing for her device. That will never withstand the core's energy output, Han said. Song looked up from her work. The pot is made of heat-resistant metal alloy. Your people use it for cooking, but on Earth, similar materials shield our smaller power cores. After several hours, Song held up her creation. It looked nothing like the sleek, advanced technology the consortium used. Wires stuck out at odd angles. Parts clearly meant for other purposes were connected in strange ways. The cooking pot formed its outer shell. This is your stabilizer? Captain Kim asked, having come to check on the progress. It's not pretty, Song admitted, but it should work. Officer Lee frowned. Should, Song shrugged. Engineering is always part science, part art, and part luck. The time came to connect Song's makeshift stabilizer to the power core. The crew gathered at a safe distance, many doubting the device would last more than a few seconds before exploding. Power. Activation in 3, 2, 1. Han counted down, his finger hovering over the control panel. The core hummed to life. Energy flowed through the systems. The lights flickered once, twice, and then steadied. The ship's computer announced, power stabilization at 78% efficiency. The consortium crew stared in amazement. Han checked his readings twice. It's working, he said, his voice filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Song smiled as she adjusted a connection, bringing the efficiency up to 82%. Sometimes the most elegant solution isn't the prettiest. Over the next few days, Song continued to surprise the crew with her unconventional methods. When the air filtration system failed, she created a temporary solution using water, plants from the ship's small garden, and containers from the medical bay. When the navigation sensors couldn't be repaired, she rigged a manual system using parts from old spacesuits and the ship's entertainment devices. Each time, the consortium engineers would explain why her ideas could not possibly work. Each time, Song would simply try anyway. And each time, her strange solution succeeded. You're breaking all the rules of proper engineering, Han told her one evening as they worked together on the communication array. Song handed him a tool, Rules are good when you have everything you need. But out here, with limited supplies and time, sometimes you need to forget the rules and just solve the problem. Slowly, Han and the other engineers began to learn from Song. They watched how she approached problems from unusual angles. They saw how she used materials in ways their training had never considered. By the end of the week, some of the younger engineers were suggesting their own unconventional solutions. When a junior technician successfully repaired a damaged door mechanism using parts from a broken food dispenser, Song gave him a thumbs up. Captain Kim observed the changes with interest. His crew was learning something valuable from this human engineer, something beyond just fixing their ship. They were learning to think differently. Perhaps, he said to Officer Lee as they watched Song work, we have grown too comfortable with our advanced technology. We know how things should be done, but we've forgotten how to adapt when those methods fail. Lee nodded. The human doesn't see limitations. She sees possibilities. The repair work continued, but something else was happening aboard the Starlight, Voyager. During meal breaks and rest periods, the human and the consortium crew began to talk about more than just ship repairs. Song sat in the mess hall, eating the strange blue food the consortium considered a delicacy. Several young engineers had joined her table, eager to hear more about human ways of solving problems. On Earth, we have a saying, Song explained between bites. Necessity is the mother of invention. When you don't have what you need, you find a way to make do with what you have. Young engineer Jin leaned forward. But doesn't that produce inferior results? Our training teaches us to use the correct tools and materials for each task. Song smiled. Sometimes, yes. But sometimes you discover new methods that no one thought of before. She pointed to her makeshift power stabilizer, which had now been running successfully for 5 days. That design would never have happened if I had access to your standard parts. Captain Kim watched these exchanges with interest. He had served in the consortium fleet for 30 years and had encountered many species, but humans had always seemed primitive to him. Newcomers to the galactic community with crude technology and simple ships. Now he wasn't so sure. Later that evening, Engineer Han invited Song to the ship's observation deck. The vast window showed the stunning beauty of the nebula they were stranded in, swirls of purple and blue gases illuminated by distant stars. I wanted to apologize, Han said quietly. I doubted your methods. I thought our way was the only correct approach. Song gazed at the nebula. Each species has its strengths. Yours has incredible theoretical knowledge and precision. Mine had to learn to adapt and improvise. Han nodded slowly. Perhaps the best approach is to combine both. The next day, Han surprised everyone by suggesting an unconventional repair method for the damaged navigation system. It involved using Song's improvised techniques but enhanced with consortium precision calculations. Song worked alongside him, learning the advanced principles behind consortium technology while showing Han how to think outside the rigid structures of his training. Officer Lee found Captain Kim watching the engineers work together. Something remarkable is happening, she said. Captain Kim nodded. 2 different ways of thinking coming together. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The cultural exchange went beyond engineering. During rest periods, Song taught some crew members old Earth card games. The consortium crew showed her their 3-dimensional strategy game that had been played in their society for thousands of years. Song shared stories about Earth's history, how humans had faced countless disasters and setbacks but always found ways to survive and rebuild. Our planet tried to kill us many times, she explained to a fascinated group one evening. Floods, ice ages, volcanoes, plagues. Each time we adapted and found new solutions. In return, the consortium crew told stories of their extensive history among the stars, their great scientific discoveries, and their elegant cities on distant worlds. Your people build things to last for thousands of years, Song said with admiration. On Earth, we often build knowing we'll need to rebuild again someday. Junior engineer Jin found Song in the engine room late one night. Can you teach me more about human repair techniques? Our academy doesn't cover these approaches. Song handed him a tool. Here, I'll show you. But first tell me more about how you would normally handle this. Maybe we can find a middle path. By the 10th day, the ship was nearly ready to resume its journey. The repairs weren't perfect. Many systems ran at reduced efficiency and some comforts couldn't be restored. But the Starlight Voyager would fly again. What had changed more than the ship, however, was the crew. Captain Kim observed, his engineers now approaching problems differently. They still used their advanced knowledge, but they were more willing to try alternative solutions when standard approaches failed. And Song had changed too. She had filled her notes with consortium engineering principles that would benefit her. People back at the mining station. Do you think the consortium will be interested in learning more about human engineering approaches? Song asked Captain Kim as they reviewed the final repair status. Captain Kim nodded. I believe so. And I think many humans might benefit from consortium knowledge as well. Different doesn't mean better or worse, Song said. Just different paths to the same goal. Indeed, said Captain Kim. And sometimes those different paths can lead to entirely new destinations. The day of departure arrived. The Starlight Voyager hummed with renewed energy as final system checks were completed. Captain Kim stood on the bridge, watching his crew work with a newfound confidence. The ship that had been declared beyond repair was ready to fly again. Engineer Han entered the bridge with Song at his side. Both looked tired but satisfied. All systems are operational, Captain, Han reported. We're ready for departure. Captain, Kim nodded. Excellent work. And how are those efficiency ratings? Song smiled slightly. That's the interesting part, sir. Several systems are actually performing better than before the accident. Officer Lee looked up from her station. Better? How is that possible? Han displayed the data on the main screen. The hybrid cooling system we designed is 15% more efficient than the original, and the power distribution network shows a 12% improvement in energy conservation. The bridge crew stared at the numbers in disbelief. Their ship had not merely been repaired, it had been improved. Captain Kim turned to Song. It seems we owe you more than just our lives, Engineer Song. You've given us a ship that exceeds its original specifications. Song shook her head. It wasn't just me. It was all of us working together, combining approaches. Your engineers brought incredible knowledge to the table. The time had come for Song to return to her mining station. She stood at the airlock with her small bag of tools, saying goodbye to the crew members who had become her friends. Junior Engineer Jin stepped forward. Will you teach other humans what you learned from us? Of course, Song replied. And I hope you'll share what you learned about human methods with your people. Captain Kim approached with a formal document in his hand. Engineer Song, I have prepared an official report to the consortium detailing your contribution to our survival. But I would like to offer something more. He handed her the document. This is an invitation to join us on our return journey to consortium space as a technical advisor. Song's eyes widened. You want me to come with you? The journey will take 3 months, Captain Kim explained. During that time, you could work with our engineers to further develop these hybrid technologies. When we reach Central Station, you could present your findings directly to the Consortium Engineering Council. Han added, No human has ever addressed the council before. Song looked at the document, then at the faces around her. What about my duties at the mining station? We've already contacted your supervisor, Officer Lee said. They've agreed to release you temporarily for this project. They seemed quite excited about the potential benefits. Song smiled. Then I accept. The next day, the Starlight Voyager departed, leaving the nebula behind. Song spent her days working alongside the consortium engineers, documenting their hybrid repair techniques and developing new applications for the combined approach. In the ship's laboratory, she and Han created a new power regulation system that merged consortium precision with human adaptability. The prototype performed beyond everyone's expectations. This technology could benefit both our peoples, Han said as they reviewed the test results. The consortium has thousands of ships that could be upgraded with these systems. And human outposts could finally solve their chronic power instability issues, Song added. One evening, Captain Kim invited Song to his private dining room. As they ate, he spoke candidly. You know, before this accident, I viewed humans as a junior species, technically capable but far behind us. I see now that I was wrong. Different isn't lesser. Song nodded. Many humans view the consortium the same way, as aloof and theoretical, missing practical solutions. We were both wrong. Captain Kim raised his glass to new perspectives. As the Starlight Voyager approached consortium space, technicians from throughout the ship visited the engineering section to see the hybrid systems in action. Word of their innovations had spread through the communication channels, and several consortium science vessels altered course to rendezvous with them. Your work has caused quite a stir, Officer Lee told Song, as they watched a team of consortium specialists examine the makeshift power stabilizer. The Engineering Council has scheduled a special session to hear your presentation. Our presentation, Song corrected her. This was a team effort. On the final day of their journey, Captain Kim made a shipwide announcement. The Starlight Voyager was once considered beyond repair. Now it serves as an example of what can be achieved when different approaches and cultures come together. Our misfortune has become an opportunity for growth and exchange. As the gleaming spires of the consortium central station came into view, Song stood on the observation deck watching the magnificent structure grow larger. She thought about how a simple rescue mission had turned into something much more significant. Ready? Han asked, joining her at the window. Song nodded. Ready? For whatever comes next.